Hello, my friends. Hope you're doing well today. Good to see you again. Today, I'm going to be redoing one of the landscapes I did about 2.5, 3 years ago. I just want to see how it turns out with what I've learned from that time until now by practicing. I have a 16 by 20 stretched canvas up here. I have my colors down here. I have some crimson, yellow ochre, medium yellow, lemon yellow, a little bit of white, won't need much, some burnt sienna, a little bit of grass green, and a whole lot of black. It's going to be a whole lot of black in this piece. And as normal, we're going to start by spraying a light misting of water over this canvas. I use acrylics. If you're painting with oil, this will not work unless you're using water mixable oils. And we're going to go ahead down here onto our paper, spray a little bit of water over that paint to keep it from drying out too quickly. Now, get a little water on your brush. I keep a couple cups down here in a bucket. One for dipping the brush in, another one for rinsing the brush out. And I keep that in the bucket. Well, when it's time to clean the brush, we'll show you why I keep it in the bucket. Get my towel over my lap that I use to clean my brushes. Let's get started. A little more than halfway up, I'm going to come in with some black paint. Kind of blend that out at the bottom. Little more. Just some gently rolling hills in here. And again, kind of as the paint gets onto the canvas, we kind of blend it out at the bottom. We don't want this going too far down. This is going to be the furthest part of our land in the landscape. Right. So clean as much off onto the towel as you can, then go ahead and go into the water that you use for cleaning. And just beat that brush around inside the bucket. And that keeps any water logged with paint from getting into the carpet or the walls. Which not a good idea, especially for rent. Now we're going to get some trees in the background here. And this is pretty far back in the background, so you don't need a whole lot of detail on these trees. Leaving the middle of the canvas open for a reason. That one needs a little thicker trunk, I think. There we go. And if you have any thick paint down here when you're pulling these tree trunks into the bottom, go ahead and even it out. Bit more. And maybe we need one. Maybe this one's old and tired. Kind of leaning in. So we'll make him nice and tall. And then I have a nice stiff bristly brush here. I really like to use it. Works really well for putting bunches of leaves on in a hurry, so you don't have to paint them all at the same time. you don't need a whole lot of detail, because this is going to be covered up by a lot of color. Gonna push it into the background in a misty scene. So you really just want a bare minimum of details. You don't want to spend a lot of time agonizingly putting in a whole bunch of details only to cover it up. Okay. So just kind of go with the bare minimum. That'll suggest the shape. Make the shape recognizable to people in the background. This guy doesn't have too many leaves left on him. He is really struggling. Clean this feller off. And go in with this brush I like to use to make grass, because it's got that broken edge. And again, you don't need a whole lot. But you just want to put in a few little tufts of grass and bushes here and there. Especially around the trees. For whatever reason, they like to hang out where the trees are. They don't always. Sometimes the trees can really monopolize any source of water. But I feel like these little prairie grasses, little forest grasses, have learned to make do with what the trees leave them behind. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead. Still going to leave this part blank. It'll make more sense to you in the near future. Oh, that wasn't actually the same brush, was it? I believe they used this blue handled booger. Alright. And so we will eventually have some water here. Let's go ahead, put in some shadows. Try to make it fairly close, fairly even. Doesn't have to be perfect, because, you know, there's a good chance there's a little motion in the water, which would cause the shadows not to be quite even. And the reason I'm leaving this break here, not painting this all the way down, is there's going to be some more land in here. So this further back region, land-wise at least, isn't really going to show, but the trees will. The trees are far enough down. And again, doesn't have to be perfect. Because of what we're doing here, close enough applies. A little further down. All right, now we can go back in with our leaf brush. And again, we're gonna follow the same shape you followed up top. Same basic shape. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, if it helps, there's enough white space there. You can actually flip the canvas upside down. Now, this and there, we went down a little further than we did on the original, so we're just going to go back in and even it out. No harm, no foul. One of the things I like about painting is if you catch them early enough, it's real easy to fix what could be perceived as a mistake. More water. Don't have too much black on there that time, I feel like, so. Something in a minute here to fix that a little bit. Since we have that small little bit of white, just go in here where it's super dark. Splash a little bit of that in there, kind of lighten that up. All right, gonna take a short recess to let this black paint dry. Through the magic of video editing, I won't be on board in a few seconds. And then we'll move on to start adding the color into the piece. Be right back, folks. All right, and we're back. I had another little thing on my canvas paper. You can see it spreading out there. And that is an acrylic mixing medium. What it does is it slows the drying time of your paint. And it also makes it a lot easier to do the glaze. And so we're going in with that lemon yellow and a little titanium white to get a nice bright yellow. And we're going to start adding in some of the colors for the background. For it's like a misty forest at sunset. So start kind of in the middle here. This is why you didn't need a whole lot of detail in there to start with. As you can see, it's covering that up. And it is, unfortunately, blending with a little bit of that black. I didn't give it quite enough time to dry. So, I'm just going to blend this out as much as I can. Lift as much of this paint off the canvas as I can. And we are going to give this some more time to dry. Let this be a lesson. Don't get impatient with your work. All right. I know it looks like just keep mixing, but I'm doing that for a reason. Is I want to pull this paint as flat as I can. So when we can correct it later, it's already dried. It'll dry a little quicker. I'm going to get a little titanium white to mix in there to brighten that back up so that yellow doesn't have to do as much work when we get it back in there. It's good to make these mistakes in the part of your painting like I did where there's no detail. Because then we don't have to really go and add anything back in. Alright. I'm going to add a little bit, just a little bit of that land back in though. That's a little bit lighter than the pure black I have. But that's kind of okay because this is right in the middle. So this should be the area that gets covered up the most. Oh, great. Clean that brush good. I'm going to give this fella, let's see, flatten it out with a finger too if you want. Acrylic is non-toxic as long as you don't eat it. Just spread that out a little more. We're going to come back. I think I'm going to give it a good, I only went about 10 minutes last time. So I'm going to come back in about half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. And we'll see where we're at then. Again, through the magic of video editing, I'm not going to make you sit here and stare at me staring at a canvas that long. But we'll be back soon. All right, and we're back. And do the finger test. And we're dry. Okay. Now, I did get a little bottle of water. So I made the mistake of cleaning my brushes in the dipping water. So while I was gone, got a little bit of water. You can use tap water. I just don't think I'm gonna need to drink this whole bottle of water tonight. Now we have clean water for dipping the brush in if we need to water the paint down a little bit. All right. A little more titanium white. A little more lemon yellow. A little more of that glaze. You don't quite want it ink consistency, but you really do not want it much thicker than that. And we'll go back over the circle there. And it is thin, but we want it thin. I think I'll clean most of that off. I think I'm gonna get a bigger little splash of white paint. And just right in the middle there, we're gonna work some of that in. We want that middle part to be pretty dang bright. Pull it as flat as you can. And then very gently. Up and through. Okay. Because that's thin, I can just clean that on the towel without needing water. We can go back into our yellow glaze. A little more color in that, as you can see. We're just kind of going around. That white circle. No, it doesn't look all that white right now because we have pure white. But as the area around it gets darker to the eye, it'll look lighter. Now we can go ahead once again. A little up and down and back and forth. Oop. Must have been a little splash in there that wasn't quite dry. Clean that off for the most part though. Let's take a little brush. Some of that white. Go over those little areas. Cover that up. Blend it into that yellow. It won't stand out too much. Then we'll just get a little more of that yellow. And go over it again. Okay. Now we want to get that yellow a little darker, so we'll go into that medium yellow. And really get it good and vibrant. Maybe a little bit that lemon yellow as well. Might be a little too vibrant. Some more of that mixing medium. I think I'm going to go ahead and take my mister. That'll help it spread some. Make sure you cover up that border in between colors a little bit. You don't really want to leave a gap there. See where that color's coming from that tree. Pull that out. And blend some of that in. And again, clean your brush off on your towel It's okay if there's a little color left on there because it'll just help it blend a little more. And pull back and forth. And you can look at it. There's a little black. You can touch that up. Some of that will cover up on future layers as well. So blend it out as much as you can. It doesn't need to be perfect. But if you get too much of a blend in there, you can just go in there with that color again and cover most of it up. Okay. Next layer, gonna be more of just the lemon yellow and a touch of yellow ochre. Not a whole lot again. You want to let the colors, the more varied hues that you have for each circle of light, you're gonna have, it's just gonna look a little more natural. That might be a little too light, so we'll get a little more of that yellow ochre in there. And just mix it in the previous pile. There we go. Nice kind of orange hue in there almost. And again, pull it fairly thin. You know, this is just color for the sake of color, not really anything much there for shapes. So you don't want texture in it. And again, I'll clean her up. Get most of that color out. And just go back in and pull across a little bit. Being real soft up there by that one tree that was giving me a little bit of a hard time. And you see what happens there by blending. Makes borders kind of hazy. Hazy would be a good word. Colors just bleed into each other a little bit. That's why I like to use a little bit of mist when I'm doing this. A little bit of water misted on there. Now the reason I'm not just mixing these colors with water is because you really don't want more than 30% water to paint ratio, because it can really mess up the way the acrylic dries. That might be a little too dark, so we'll get a little more yellow ochre and a little more medium yellow in there as well. Save that dark for the very edge. Because acrylic forms kind of a honeycomb polymer chain, if you will, as it dries. And if you have too much water in when you're making mist, it makes it less likely to bond very well with the canvas, and then over time the paint will flake off a lot easier. Whereas that acrylic medium, oh, I got a little touch of red in there I didn't really want. But whereas that acrylic medium mix will form that same kind of honeycomb. Ooh, definitely did not want to get any black in there. But acrylic medium mix will form that same basic acrylic polymer chain. There we go. So when it dries, it'll still leave that honeycomb structure. So your paint isn't going to flake. Okay. Got a little more variation in their color here, but that's okay. Let's mix a little bit of that in over here. Okay. Mix a little of that in over here. Get a little, grab a little of that mixing medium and a little brown, a little black. Black will act to dull it. That is still a little too light, so a little more brown in there. Burnt sienna, if you will. A little bit of that black to dull it again. There we go. Mix in a small amount of water, just a little bit. Just to help it flow a little easier. Cross there, there we go. And pull it in from the edge of the canvas. And up and down a little bit as well. Really get a nice little blend. Getting a little water in that paint will help with that too. Let's get a little more brown in there. There we go. Get this corner good and dark. All right. Now we're ready. I think we're gonna try to darken up that middle section a little bit. Get a clean brush. You look like your work. Make sure you're clean. And we're just gonna go in with, again, some titanium white. Man, you weren't as clean as I thought. Might have touched the black there when I was trying to load that white up. So then what we do, again, pull off as much of that as we can. If that black's still showing through, we'll just let that dry. No big deal. And we can still go on to our next layer. Because we're going to have to do another glaze after the next layer anyway. Brush stroke, I guess not. Must just be some paint texture. All right. Right back to our black. And we're going to mix it in with a little bit of this brown. And Let's see, where do we want our these trees to be at? These trees are going to be about right here. Going to be a little thicker, a little taller, because they're closer to us. Again, we'll be doing another layer of glaze. So we still don't need a whole lot of detail on these. Maybe just a few more branches here and there to help them stand out. Because that glaze hasn't dried, it's mixing a little bit with my branches. But that's okay. These trees are closer, so we want it to mix a little bit. Now, I'm not really thinning this paint down for this layer. A little bit of water on the brush, and that's about all we're doing. Again, we're not going to go over that center point. I'm going to darken this section here up a little bit, though. Okay. Now you can see this is drying. Because we pulled these coloring so flat, it's drying a little bit quicker, especially here in the middle. I think we have another tree in this area. Sadly, didn't make it. So remind me when we get to this one not to add any leaves. I know I can count on you folks to do that for me. Again, don't get too detailed with your branches there. They're mainly just there to tell you where to punch in your leaves. And it's about time I do that too. Let's take that same brush as before, a little bit of water. I'm going to mix a little more black into it. And just kind of pat them in there. Normally with leaves we put a little highlight and shadow, but these, because of the position of where the light's coming from, we're just doing the shadow side on these first and second layers. Might do a little highlight when we get to the next one. We'll see. You can see how by doing that glaze and mixing that first layer of trees in with the background, it really adds some depth, which is what we wanted. And I thought I told you guys to remind me not to put any foliage on this tree. That's okay, I don't know how that would have worked anyway. So I think this guy here at the end is going to be our tree that doesn't have much going on in the way of leaves. All right. And once again, we need to add our shadow trees. Now this land comes down a little lower, so we're going to go ahead and bring these up higher. One thing I should have done that I didn't do on either of these layers is put on all the trees before I started adding leaves. Because it's hard to see where some of those branches are. I know I said we don't need a perfect mirror, but it would just, I think, look a little better if I had done it right. So there you go. You learned something from me not to do. Make that a little more even. There we go. And I'm using my mixing water in this black instead of the clean water, so I really don't want to get any of the black paint into my mixing water, because it's not important for this to be a clean black. In fact, I have a little brown already mixed in. It's okay if we get a little more hue variation in it. In fact, it might maybe even make it look a little more natural. Pull that up a little bit more. Let me do this tree next. One we did without any leaves. Shoot, this guy almost looks better than the one on top. You get little jagged things in there. It's actually a good thing. I'm gonna put in a branch there just so these mirror up a little bit better. Okay. And we can blot in our foliage shadows. Trying to mirror them pretty closely. I just noticed something I'm sure you all already saw. And that is, we're missing a tree. Right here. And that's sitting in the water, so I just wanted to beat most of that water off. What I have there, I don't like that. We need to fix that. cover that up with some land too. And just blend that in. Get some bright white in the middle here. Again, pull it flat. All right, looks like I need to do a little. I see a few areas in there that could use a little touch up. Right, just there. Yeah. It came right off. I think that was just a little glum that got speckled on there, unfortunately. Spot of white up here I want to get rid of. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and add in our land. And we'll start, I think this is going to be good spot to start. Don't really want to cover up that glob of sun with this layer either. There we go. Let's pull up from the south. Blend the bottom. I have a bigger brush. Let's see how that looks if we use that one. And again, just settle that. Pulling up that way, I'll pull a little bit of that black paint up. Give you some more natural looking grasses and little doodads in there. All right. Blend the bottom out again. Something there. Maybe we'll do that. I think I'm gonna take a little bit yellow umber. And a little bit Ross burnt sienna. A touch black. Mainly to desaturate. For this part of the sun, for this part of the hill. Might need a little more black in there. I want it to be a little bit lighter than there. A little bit lighter than the outsides of this big bright area, but I don't want it to be too light. I can kind of blend that again. I think that needs to be a little bit darker. just blending a little bit of black in right on the canvas. Give us a nice, warm grayish tone. There we go. Clean our brush again. Alright. That's going to do it for part 1 of this tutorial. Be back soon with part 2. Hope you learned something. If you're just watching me to relax, hope it helps you relax. Hope you had a great day, and I hope you have a great night. We'll see you soon.